welcome back, Cage Kiplinger, Logan Hubert. This is K&L Sports Huddle, episode number 57. It is Monday, March 30th, and we just had a heck of a Sweet 16 and Elite 8 weekend take place this past weekend, and we're going to be previewing the matchups in the Final Four, but definitely reacting to what we just saw last night. The baseball season, too, has just started, but I do have a regular season preview for y'all. Look at all the big moves from the offseason, look at who has the best lineups, prospects to be on the lookout for, as well as some futures picks in the gambling space. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We love the following we have, but we welcome as well new subscribers. But if you prefer listening on Spotify, the link to our page is in our YouTube channel description. You can get us on Instagram at HuddleKL Sports for breaking news and clips from our episodes. Logan, great to see you again. What a game we just had in the Elite Eight to finish things off. But before we get to that, get us started with our weekly Whiplash.
Yep, and we're just going to focus in the golf world today, starting off at the Texas Children's Hospital Houston Open, I believe that's what it's called. Gary Woodland, who has not won an event since 2019. If you've been following golf, know that he was out of it for a while. He had to remove a tumor, I believe, in the brain, so he had open brain surgery. And, what else is there to say? I mean,
heck of a comeback. We saw a couple this weekend. This was definitely one of them. And just a guy you just feel like you want to root for it every time he's out there. And does that mean, I assume he gets to play at Augusta this year then, if he wasn't already?
I would assume. I mean, for what did he win? Was he a U.S. Open or Open? He won a major at some point, so he had an exemption for a little bit. It's probably out, but yeah, I mean, he dominated this. I mean, he was 21, finished 21 under, shot all 4 rounds in the 60s. It was never really close on Sunday. So yeah, I mean, heck of a performance. I mean, that should get him an invite to Augusta. And then also there was news about a golfer who had a big event that happened to him in 2019. This guy won the Masters in 2019. Although his story from this past weekend, whatever you think of opposite of Gary Woodland's story, you get the Tiger Woods story of what happened this weekend. Yeah, he went to jail for a DUI, blue zeros, so it means that from what we can tell, it wasn't alcohol. Knowing Tiger, he's had other issues than alcohol that he's been dealing with. So, yeah, I'm assuming it had to do something with drugs. And the lesson here is, why doesn't he have a personal driver? When you have that much money and I'm assuming he knows he still has some issues. Like you just always want to have a personal driver. I just don't get it. I don't know why, but it's disappointing because there was a little hope he could play at the Masters, but I think that's shot. Yep, if he thought didn't think it was already over, it's pretty much over for Tiger making a comeback.
It's a tradition unlike any other. And it seems to happen every few years with this Tiger Woods news, and it's honestly frustrating at this point. Like, I was really excited to potentially see him playing on the Augusta greens and whatnot, but he lets us down again, which is just really unfortunate. But let's move on. Let's get out of the golf space. It's such a downer right now in that world. So let's move on to Campus Corner. Let's get to the tournament talk. I mean, come on. This weekend was incredible. We had incredible Sweet 16 matchups, and then that was followed by a pretty good slate for the Elite Eight.
Okay, Elite Eight. It was actually kind of a mid to mediocre Elite Eight until the last 5% of the last game.
Right. Yeah. So if no one's seen it yet, it's going to continue to play. It's obviously the new Christian Laettner Duke shot that's going to be played for years and years to come. But Braylon Mullins of the UConn Huskies hitting the last second shot for the Huskies against Duke to win the Elite Eight matchup that Duke was pretty much in control of for most of this game. They had a 19-point lead in the first half, 15-point lead at halftime, and they let them come back, which you see a lot in these games anyway, so that wasn't as surprising as what went down in the final 10 seconds of this one. Logan, what happened there?
Yeah, so I mean, UConn was making a valiant effort to come back. I think the closest they ever cut it was to 1. They never had a lead, but they got it down to 2 with exactly 10 seconds left. So all Duke really had to do was just not turn it over, and they did not even have to cross half court because 10 seconds. If there's a 10-second violation, well, that would ring zeros on the clock. So. So they inbounded it to Cam Boozer, a guy you could trust. He got out of a double team, and then I forget who had it next. May have been Evans, maybe. And then he got it out to the other Boozer, Caden Boozer, and he was close to half court. And 2 UConn defenders were closing in on him. I believe it was Caravan, the veteran, and Braylon Mullins, the freshman. And by then, there was about 4 to 5 seconds left. Duke did their job. They killed time. At that point, no need to force anything at all. Any risk? I mean, unless some guy's wide open and 100% you can get it there, fine. You can make the pass. But at that point, you just concede. You get fouled, and you make your free throws. Even if you miss the free throws, you'll be on the other end of the court. But what did Caden Boozer do? Well, and what did John Shire, Duke's coach, command Boozer to do? Well, when the UConn defenders converged on Boozer, that left 2 Duke guys wide open, really far away on the other side of the court, but they were wide open. So if he happened to hit that pass, that would have ended the game because UConn would not have been able to get back to foul. But you just don't make that pass. Too risky. And, he threw an over-the-head pass. Mullins tipped it. Caravan caught it. And then Caravan looked for a shot, but good job by Duke converging it on him. But they didn't account for Mullins, who pulled from over 30 feet. Apparently, he said today that he thought the game was tied. He thought that shot was for the tie. He didn't even realize that was for the win. And, he canned it. And, I mean, one of the more unbelievable March moments you'll ever see, and it came it's been a tournament, and we've had some good March moments, but this one's clearly topped them all.
Yeah, this is one of those that reminds me of UNC Villanova 2016. Like, this is one of the first really big, and because of the stakes that were taking place with this game, like a Final Four spot was on the line, and I still feel like I was on the right side of this one, picking Duke to go to the Final Four because they had the win, and I just don't know how, especially as you mentioned, from a coaching standpoint, that you don't know the situation. If you're John Shire, if an assistant coach is not communicating that to you, so that you can then communicate that to a guard during the free throws that were taking place, they had plenty of time to understand the situation that was ahead of them in this next play, that they did not even have to get this ball across half court. And at that point, even if you're worried about a jump ball, because the possession arrow, I think, was going to go to UConn if they called the jump ball, at that point, if you're just strong with the basketball and they come to try to reach in to grab the ball, they're going to get called for a foul. You're going to go to the free throw line, you're going to shoot your free throws, and the game's going to be over. So obviously it's a huge mistake by Boozer and it's unfortunate for him, especially as a freshman, a highly touted, the Boozer brothers of Duke. It's a big thing for them, and this was a really good team. And another I just feel like Shire got outcoached. There's no reason that with the lead at halftime that you should allow a team that this is not one of the better UConn teams, obviously, to be able to come back when you've got everyone healthy. Now that Gongba was back, Foster has been back, and I don't know why Foster wasn't put in those final seconds either, as probably the best ball handler on the team. Just a very unfortunate turn of events for the Duke Blue Devils to not make this Final Four when they had this in the bag.
Yeah, similar to last year against Houston, where they were in control for that entire game, basically, and then they gave up a 6-point lead in 30 seconds. They had 30 seconds left with a 6-point lead, and they lost in regulation. Yeah, but I will. It's not all on Caden Boozer, because if you really watch that last 7 minutes of the game, you can tell Duke was just hanging on for dear life. Well, like UConn, I felt like was more in control that last 7 minutes, and Duke was just like hanging on for dear life. Just we're almost there. We can do it, guys. Like don't do don't do anything stupid out of the ordinary. Don't do what got us to this 19-point lead in the beginning. So yeah, just yeah, tough way to lose, but it is Duke, and many people were happy to see that.
Yeah.
But it was Dan Hurley, and many people were not happy to see that. So it was
kind of a lose-lose situation for a lot of
lose for a lot
college
of
basketball
people.
fans.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I thought both sides just fun game to watch, but yeah, tough way to lose.
And I believe Mullins from Indiana, right? Greenfield.
Yes, Greenfield, Indiana. Indiana's Mr. Basketball last year. Yep, and he's coming back home for the Final Fours.
Yeah,
which is good because they're going to need all the support they can get with Michigan and Illinois not being too far away from Indianapolis.
And UConn going on might have one of the best streaks in all of sports, in that they was like 2014. Since 2014, they haven't lost since reaching the Sweet 16. If they reach the Sweet 16, they haven't lost a game. Like that is one of the coolest stats that I've seen come out of this tournament. That streak that they're on, it's nuts. It's came from I believe from the Kevin Ollie coach teams to the now the Dan Hurley ones as well. So it's UConn has solidified itself as probably the most successful program within the last, I mean, maybe this century.
You're right. Century, yeah.
Looking at some of the other, so looking at the other three teams that made it to the Final Four, we had Illinois come out of the South. That is one of my favorite. I mean, I picked them to go to the Final Four. It's probably my favorite pick that I've had this whole tournament. To see them come out of that, they actually got a decent draw once Florida went down. Getting the win over Houston was huge, and it looks like they're actually playing defense. And if Illinois is playing defense, then watch out, because this offense can run up the score on you. And I've been very impressed with the way they've locked in this tournament. Brad Underwood finally makes it to a Final Four, which is pretty special because he's got probably his best team that he's had.
Yeah, they absolutely should have given each Iowa player a hug after the game and thank them for knocking out Florida, because not saying that they definitely could have beat Florida, but their road would have been a lot more difficult if they would have had to face Florida in the Elite Eight. But yeah, but their Houston win's the real story. They were favored over Iowa, and Iowa gave a good fight, but they kind of resorted back to old Iowa in that game, where it was just Bennett, Sturts, and friends. The other guys kind of didn't really step up like they had in their previous game against Nebraska, because that was a big game too. Nebraska was leading the entire game until the last 2 minutes, and then Iowa took control, and then for some reason Nebraska wanted to run the Norman Dale, bring play four guys on defense and see how that worked at the wrong time. Absolute worst time, and with a minute left and you're down 3 and you gave up an and 1, so that pretty much ended it. But but back to Illinois. Yeah, huge win over Houston. They made Houston, I mean, they just humiliated Houston. Not like offensively Houston couldn't get anything done. And it was the game was never really close after the first few minutes. Just real impressive victory by Illinois. And then moving over to the West region, we had Arizona continue to look dominant. They took down Arkansas 109-88, and yeah, that was, I mean, anybody who watched basketball this year, that was probably the expected score of that game. Because remember how many remember that Alabama Arkansas game that was like 100 something, 115. Yeah, I mean everyone knew Arkansas played no defense, and their only chance was if they would have just played absolute elite offense, and they didn't. They played okay offense, but not to that level. So yeah, that game was never really close. But then the other Sweet 16 game, Texas Purdue. Now that was a very good game. That was the best game of the weekend until Sunday, because that was close. Yeah, that game was close the entire time, and then Purdue was up 3, and then Texas had an and one, and then Purdue, and then Trey Kaufman ran at the tip in at the end, which was pretty impressive. And then I saw people were claiming that was a foul on him
on
the tip
Kaufman
in.
Rin.
Yeah,
thinking he pushed off.
And to those people, I would just like to say, congrats on watching your first ever basketball game. I'm like, well, I mean, like, if that's a foul, then if you're getting boxed out, then you just, I give up. I can't get a rebound.
Right.
I mean, it's just two guys fighting for, I mean, sure, you can foul if someone's boxing you out, but that was just two guys battling for a rebound. There was nothing. The Texas guy started boxing out when he was underneath the basket, which you're taught early that you never do that. If you're beginning your box out underneath the basket, you've probably already lost. But still. But it's set up for a good Elite Eight matchup, which the final score doesn't paint the whole picture, because Purdue played about as well as they could in the first half. Purdue was up 7, but then Arizona showed everyone why they were 35-2 and why them and another team we're going to talk about soon are probably the 2 most dominant teams in the country. And then, I mean, Purdue was a good team, but at this level, you need NBA talent to really make it to the Final Four, and Arizona had those guys. Purdue didn't, and we ended up with the Arizona 79, Purdue 64, and congrats to Arizona.
Yeah, when I saw Arizona put the beat down on pretty much every team they've played up to this point, it's like they've definitely had the most dominant run this tournament, next to the next team we'll talk about. But talk to me a little bit. I mean, Purdue made it to the Elite Eight. This is your school. This core, it's kind of the end of the run, end of an era for this core of Purdue that's been around for, seems like forever, with Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and Trey Kaufman Wren. Talk about just like what this team's kind of meant to Purdue basketball. I feel like it's been the best era in Purdue basketball since maybe the like Jawan Johnson, Etuan Moore teams.
And those teams were never reached their potential due to injuries. The whole preseason number 1 for Purdue, like, it was all based on the uncertainty of other teams. Like, we didn't really know how good the Arizona freshmen were going to be. We didn't. Duke freshmen, Michigan, we didn't really know. Purdue, you knew exactly what you're going to get. You're getting the exact same team from the year before that made it to the Sweet 16 and nearly took down Houston, who was arguably the best team last year. So that's kind of where the number 1. But when the season started, you could tell, okay, they're a good team. They're not the best. They're not a great team. They're that second tier of teams. But I mean, you can't say enough about that core, because it's 3 guys who probably won't have much of a pro career, but man, they got the most out of those guys. And I mean, Braden Smith in the tournament, kind of an underrated record. In that final game, he broke the all-time minutes played of a 4-year player in NCAA history, which is that just shows you how big of a mark they left on Purdue in the program. But we'll see, because pretty rare you see 3 guys like that stay for 4 years and you watch them grow. I'm not just talking about Purdue. I'm just talking about all of college basketball. I doubt you'll see much more of that.
Especially, in this era of transfer portal, NIL. I mean, Matt Painter's actually had some really good sound bites throughout this tournament, just talking those guys up and talking about kind of the stress and the how hard it is to be a college coach in this era. And so I think, you know, I don't think this is just the end of Purdue. I think he's definitely going to be able to build another program, and they have those guys to really look up to when they bring in their new crop of guys that they're going to want to build around. So yeah, so just
They'll
a great
always be around because like people thought, oh, it's over. Carson Edwards is gone. They're done.
right.
Jaden Ivey's gone. They're done. Nope. Zach Edey emerged. Nope. Zach Edey's gone. They're done. Nope. They still got. So yeah. I mean, it's Matt Painter's just. Even as, I mean, obviously I'm a Purdue fan, but even as a neutral fan, you just kind of hope to see a guy like that someday just break through and win it all.
Yeah.
Just, but I think if he's going to do that, he has to maybe broaden his scope a little bit and maybe look for more true athletes. And the homegrown thing's great, but is that good enough to get you to a title? Not usually, unless a lot of breaks go your way. And
Yeah.
you can't count on that.
All right, let's talk about this Midwest region. And the Final Four team that comes out of this region is the Michigan Wolverines, our pick to win the national title. Had a pretty good game against Alabama there for a little bit.
Yeah, that was the only entertaining aspect of this region, if we're being honest. This region was just I'll say that. This weekend's of this region was pretty much a snooze fest. We had a couple of good games, like the
Kentucky,
Santa Clara in Kentucky, and that was a good one. But Michigan's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's all you got to say. Alabama couldn't miss in the first half, which there were times this year where they looked like that, but that's not a sustainable formula against Michigan. You have to play defense at some point, and they just couldn't. But I know Tennessee looked awful in the Elite Eight game. Absolutely. I mean, Michigan just destroyed them, and the game was never close. But I'm going to give kudos to Rich Barnes. 3 straight Elite Eights, that's nothing to scoff at. Yeah, he can't. The jokes he can't make to the Final Four, but I mean, he's ran into some absolute juggernauts in these Elite Eight matchups, and I mean Tennessee basketball has never made the Final Four, so I mean that just tells you they've never had much success. So just appreciate what you got. I mean,
right. And I don't think any Tennessee fan was expecting them to make it that far this year. Like,
no.
Some people thought first round. Like,
yeah, about Miami of Ohio would take them out, but yeah, they beat 2 seeds higher than them. They beat Virginia, and then Iowa State. You can say that the Jefferson injury had a big impact. It probably did, but I mean, Iowa State looked horrible on offense, and you can thank Tennessee a lot for that. So that was a great performance by them. But yeah, I said at the beginning of this tournament, I thought Michigan had the easiest draw to the Elite Eight, and then once Jefferson went out, I thought, well, now they have the easiest draw of anybody to the Final Four.
Yeah.
But now we're set up with probably the championship. To me, this is the title game is in the Final Four.
This is going to be good. I'm so excited. We have Arizona, Michigan on the right side of the bracket. We'll get to the left side in a second, but this matchup is nuts. These are, to me, the two most balanced, most dominant, and just like from all of the units, the front court, the back court, I mean, they're deep. These are the two best teams in this tournament. And Duke might have gotten the overall number 1 seed, but to me, especially just watching them throughout this tournament, they've been very dominant. They've taken care of their business along the way, and they've earned their spot into this Final Four matchup. That's going to be hopefully an instant classic, because I think just the matchups we're going to get in this one are going to be nuts.
Yeah, like I said, this is the title game for me right here. Both of these teams have won every game by double digits so far in this tourney. Kind of reminiscent of UConn in 2 years ago, or the North Carolina team in 2009. I don't know if there was another team that did that, but just blew everyone. Won every game by double digits, and You don't normally see this in a Final Four matchup where two teams. So it's clear these have been the two best teams to me all year. Michigan played their worst game of the year, in my opinion, against Duke. So Duke beat them in a head-to-head, but that was definitely Michigan's dud of a game. Um, and yeah, I can't wait. Like you said,
I mean, they're so evenly matched. I mean, Michigan scores 87.7 points a game, Arizona 86.5. Their opponent points per game 69.6, 68.8. Field goal percentage 51%, 50%. It's like is tit for tat the best matchup that we're going to see in this tournament. I mean, Yaxel Lindeborg had a great game these past couple games. See him matched up with probably someone like Koa Pete, maybe. I mean, it's going to be so fun to watch. Cadell and Bradley. Bradley's had some incredible moments and this past weekend. So it's the one I'm most excited for. It's probably the next matchup that I was most hoping for outside of Illinois Houston, and I think this one will definitely deliver. On the other side of the bracket, we do have UConn and Illinois. I mean, with UConn's little voodoo magic going on with this team, I'm kind of concerned for Illinois. Really, because Dan Hurley's been here before, Brad Underwood hasn't, and this Illinois team honestly could be any of these teams in this Final Four. They have the makeup kind of similar to Michigan and Arizona. They have a really good backcourt, really good front court. They're very deep. Peja Stojakovic's son is incredible to watch. He plays very different than his father, but very, very fun to watch. When you talked about Iowa reverting back to old Iowa, I kind of worry that it might happen with Illinois just losing its defensive intensity come this game. And like I said, Dan Hurley's been here before. A lot of the players on this team have been here before. And so it'll be very interesting to see the experience versus the newcomers to this Final Four.
Well, I mean, I think Illinois matches up great with UConn. That's why I guess they're slight favorites, because every other indication tells me, yeah, Dan Hurley, you don't mess with Dan Hurley magic. And it's amazing. No one's talked. Hardly, I've seen it a couple times, but hardly anyone's talked about it. These two teams faced each other this year, earlier in the year. They played a game. UConn won by 13. I'm pulling it up right now. It was 74-61, I believe. Where was that game? It was a neutral. It was Madison Square Garden. Yeah, so basically a home game for UConn. But one thing to note: Keaton Wagler, arguably Illinois' best player, he only played 14 minutes that game. This is going to be a completely new matchup. Jake Davis, who is a starter for Illinois, he only played 9 minutes. So at this point in the year, Illinois was still playing with their lineups and didn't really. Obviously, Wagler hadn't peaked yet by any means. So and UConn had their full team. So don't take that matchup too seriously, especially since Illinois is probably going to have more of a home court advantage with it being in Indianapolis and Champaign not being too far from Indiana. So, yeah, I mean, this game is also Michigan Arizona is obviously going to be the more enjoyable matchup, the one we've been waiting for. But I mean, I see this matchup right below. I mean, it's right below it. It's still going to be super entertaining. Yeah, I mean, other than Illinois' lately in Big Ten play, other than Illinois' Michigan loss, all of their losses have just been crazy overtime losses. Yeah. So, we shall see. Yeah, if Illinois goes back to old Illinois defense, then they won't stand a chance in this one. If they play their normal basketball, they should win. I don't see how they couldn't win, but never count out Dan Hurley.
Yeah, potentially could see an all Big Ten national championship game, Illinois, Michigan in Indianapolis. I could see both fan bases packing it in to Lucas Oil. I assume it'd be Lucas Oil when they play.
It'd be a Big Ten championship game.
It'd be amazing. All right, well, we'll definitely be back next week. I would assume Tuesday after the national championship game to talk about the whole Final Four. matchups there. All right, let's move on to Diamond Talk. And I said I'd do a little MLB 2026 season preview, and I'm not going to do it the way we did the all-time teams. I'm not going to go division by division. That would take forever, and that was exhausting going through those. Games have already started, obviously. It's been fun to watch the first week of games underway, getting back into the swing of things with baseball. It's always fun just having games on all the time. It might be one of the most wide open seasons we've seen in a while, but at the same time, there's some very, very clear superpowers forming at the top, and one in particular, and that's the Los Angeles Dodgers. They enter as the clear World Series favorites after a very aggressive offseason. But the National League is viewed as very top heavy. You got teams like the Dodgers, the Braves, the Phillies, the Mets, all vying for top spots in the playoffs. And then the American League seems a little bit more volatile, with no overwhelming favorite. Multiple projections show tight division races, especially the AL East and the NL Central. Obviously, going to be keeping a very close eye on the NL Central as I watch my St. Louis Cardinals, who have gotten off to a pretty nice start in their first series, where they've scored a lot of runs. They've given up a lot as well, but they came out with a two out of three with the Tampa Bay Rays. Logan, first off, I know you're not as into the baseball stratosphere as I am, but do you think this season's pretty predictable at the top, or do you think it'll be kind of wide open and chaotic?
I agree with your assessment where the American League has got the biggest variable that could happen, even though you already look at the first series and what do you know? Yankees, Blue Jays, both 3-0.
Right.
They were right where they left off last year in the AL East. But yeah, I mean, you look at the West is going to be the Dodgers for sure. But I mean, you look the East and the Central. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you with sure confidence who's going to win that or who's going to overperform or underperform. I mean, almost every team there could have has a case to win. I don't know about the Pirates after Paul Skeens'
what a bomb, right?
Debut,
yeah, can't even last an inning, right? Oh my gosh. Not what NBC was expecting when they got their first matchup of the season, and that's what they get for opening day. But I'm sure that'll be his one dud of the season, and he's going to win another Cy Young. But let's look at three teams that I think could be potentially breakout teams this season. I'm not going to be talking about the Dodgers in this segment. We know they're great.
They could break out. Yeah,
they could. They could. They'll break the salary cap. The Atlanta Braves. So this is less about a true breakout team. This isn't like some young group that's looking to finally reach a peak, but it's more of a bounce back into dominance. Injuries disrupted key contributors last season. Suspensions, which is continuing into this season with the Drix Profar debacle. But underlying metrics, stuff like run differential, offensive efficiency, they still graded elite last season. I know they got off to that really, really rough start. I think they lost their first 11 games last season. I don't expect that to happen again. And this is a roster that feels like a one that can take the division. Even in a down stretch, the Braves remained among the league leaders in slugging, hard hit rate. So it pretty much suggests that their offensive ceiling never disappeared. If you get a full season from Ronald Acuna Jr., that really helps out too this year. But the roster strength of this is a deep lineup, power at nearly every position, and the rotation is still anchored by pretty high-end arms when healthy. This isn't, like I said, a young team breaking out. This is one of those sleeping giants ready to wake back up. So I do like the Braves this season. I liked them to win the World Series last year. I don't know that I'm going to run it back and do that, but I would expect them to be in contention for a playoff spot. The Baltimore Orioles is my next team, and this is one of those young cores that it's finally time, right? From their prospect pipeline, they've got to start showing production. This is the year where that young core is expected to fully mature. We get guys like Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday. They're just producing them like clones from their farm system. Orioles rank near the top and under minus 26 WAR contribution, meaning their core is still ascending. But they picked up a very key piece in Pete Alonso in the offseason. So I think that will obviously adds elite power and lineup protection for some of the other guys like Rushman and Gunnar Henderson. When you have someone in the middle of that order, where you can't just pitch around Rushman and Henderson because you have that guy lurking in the weeds. So obviously that's a huge pickup for them in the lineup. The pitching question is the rotation going to hold? Obviously, if they can stay healthy, I think this rotation can maybe overperform from past seasons. But right now, they're no longer playing with house money. This is a team expected to win now. And my final team is the Chicago Cubs. Unfortunately, my division rivals to my St. Louis Cardinals, but they have such a balanced roster and such a high floor. It seems like they should be winning this division this year. They're not super flashy outside of PCA, who's been quite the fan favorite in Chicago, but they ranked well in on-base percentage and contact rate last year, which pretty much indicates a sustainable offensive profile. But then they also added a big offseason free agent pickup, and that was Alex Bregman. Obviously, you bring in a veteran who's been to the World Series multiple times with the Astros, so he's got that championship pedigree. He's just an all-around great player, plate discipline, infield stability at third base. He gets to go back to third base, which he didn't play a ton of with Boston. So big picture, this is a team built more like a playoff grinder than a regular season juggernaut, but I can definitely see them making some noise in the playoffs. So those are my three potential breakout teams for this season. What do you think of those, Logan?
Yeah, I almost forget about the Braves.
Yeah, you do. With the Mets making all those moves,
Mets making all the moves, and that's what I was talking about with the NL East. I mean, I can't confidently tell you who's going to win that because you got unknown, like you got bounce back contenders like the Braves, you got your stable, like you got the Phillies who you would expect to be there, and then you have the Mets with Soto and I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, to me that's the hardest division to pick. Even over the Central, I would go Brewers if I had to. I mean, I don't feel confident just because they're always there. But yeah, the Cubs are also there too, and they had I don't know, would you call last year a breakout year for the Cubs? Or
I mean, they had some breakout players, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe not as the team as a whole. Probably better that they don't have Tucker anymore. I feel like Bregman's a more stable star that they can really wrap their arms around and keep there, you know? So, yeah. And mentioning a couple of those offseason moves, let's give a little rundown of all the really impactful moves that went on this offseason. Obviously, with the Dodgers, that was the biggest news, right? Them signing Kyle Tucker, but not only Tucker, but Edwin Diaz. If there was one weakness we saw with the Dodgers last season, it was the bullpen. And what do? They fixed that right up with probably the best closer in the game in Edwin Diaz, taking him away from the New York Mets. So already a top tier lineup. Arguably, maybe not even arguably, they got the best lineup in baseball when they add Tucker to this already stacked lineup, and now they've got close to an elite bullpen when you add someone like Diaz to that. So it's a super team. We know it, but they just added a couple more pieces to that. So New York Mets, though, they had a busy offseason, both positively and negatively. They lost key pieces like Edwin Diaz. They traded away Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien, and they also lost, as we mentioned, Pete Alonso. So it's been up and down offseason, but they did pick up one of the biggest free agents in Bo Bichette, who was playing third base for them, position he hasn't played much experience with before, but it's kind of a new look Mets. I mean, they've got bunch of new guys, top to bottom. They added Freddie Peralta to their pitching staff. He kind of got knocked around by the Pirates in that first game, but also Luis Robert Jr., former White Sox player. So it's a very much a different look for the Mets, going along with Juan Soto and the guys. So interesting look for the Mets. That has been a bit of a shaky start to the season, but I think they'll get things back on track. Boston Red Sox, made multiple trades with the Cardinals, bringing on Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras, and pretty much quietly reshaped their roster more than people realize. I think they could be a sneaky team in the AL East. They also lost Alex Bregman in the offseason, obviously. So and then Rafael Devers during the season last year sending him to the Giants. But so it'll be a lot of young guys on this Boston Red Sox crew. Toronto Blue Jays added Dylan Cease, adding a frontline starter to stabilize the rotation. Obviously, we mentioned Alonso with the Orioles and Bregman with the Cubs, but the Yankees re-signed Cody Bellinger, so they did something this offseason. If they didn't do that, they were going to get a lot of angry faces in the Yankee crowd if they didn't do something. And he's a key piece to their lineup, so definitely need him as protection for Aaron Judge. The Detroit Tigers, with the looming departure potentially of Tarek Skubal, they added Framber Valdez from the Houston Astros. So very solid starter to put into that rotation with Skubal, and I think probably the favorites to win the AL Central. The Phillies re-signed Kyle Schwarber. Again, one of those situations where they missed out on Bo Bichette, but they did keep one of their core guys of this Harper Schwarber core that they've kind of been running it back with season after season, but we'll see if that's enough to get out of this NL East. Now to our prospect watch, and this was a fun little segment I wanted to do for this because when you look at the top prospects in Major League Baseball, it's almost most of them at the top are shortstop, and it's really great because it's signaling a rise of the shortstop era. When you look back at an era like the Carlos Correa, Corey Seager, Francisco Lindor era from about a decade or so ago. You got guys like Connor Griffin on the Pirates, Kevin McGonigal on the Tigers, Jesus Made from the Brewers, Sebastian Walcott from the Rangers, and J.J. Weatherholt of the St. Louis Cardinals, who actually is playing second base because obviously we've got Mason Wynn at shortstop. Not going to take a Gold Glover away from that position, but he's been very impressive to start off this season. But just looking at each one, Connor Griffin, the Pirates, one of the highest upside athletes in the entire 2026 prospect class, an elite combination of power, speed, and defensive tools. So he's got legitimate superstar potential if the bat fully develops. And I would say Paul Skeens is going to love that because he wants all the run support he can potentially get because he had none of it last year. Kevin McGonigal, the Tigers, known for his advanced hit tool and plate discipline. He projects as a high contact, high on base percentage shortstop. He may not have the flash, but he's definitely one of the safest bets to become a high level everyday player, and currently the favorite on FanDuel to win Rookie of the Year. So definitely keep an eye out on him throughout this season. Jesus Made, the Milwaukee Brewers, one of the fastest risers in the prospect rankings. Toolsy player with strong bat speed and athleticism. Still refining consistency, but the ceiling is extremely high for this guy. He's the type of prospect that could explode onto the scene very quickly. And the Brewers definitely want some star power because they've kind of just been making it to the playoffs through just scrappiness and really good pitching. So to have someone in the field like this be very special for them. Sebastian Walcott of the Texas Rangers, physically advanced for his age, huge power upside. He's already shown the ability to drive the ball at a very high level. Scouts love his power projection at this premium position of shortstop, which is, known for its defense. You always want someone with a good glove at this position, but when you have someone who can hit, that's even better. So if everything clicks, this is a middle of the order shortstop, which is pretty rare. And then, like I said, J.J. Weatherholt, one of the most polished hitters in the minors, advanced approach, excellent bat-to-ball skills. He has less raw power, more pure hitter with high average potential, but he's the kind of player who moves quickly through the minors because the hit tool is so advanced, and he's actually on the Cardinals roster to start things out, and he's already made huge contributions within the first series to start out this season. So very excited to get to see him and a lot of the young players on this Cardinals roster. And then finishing things out, we do have Max Clark, a center fielder with elite. He's just an elite athlete with top tier speed and defense. Profiles as a true center fielder with some high offensive upside. The speed impacts both offense and defense immediately. And Clark has all the tools to be a dynamic, game-changing player even before the power fully develops. So we're about to see another generation where shortstop becomes the most talented position in baseball again, and that's really cool for my liking here. Best lineups in Major League Baseball. I'm just going to go through my 1 through 6 here. Dodgers, Mets, Mariners, Braves, Yankees, Cubs. To me, those are the creme de la creme of MLB lineups. You've got star power and all of those. I mean, I don't even have to say the names. You got MVPs, Silver Sluggers up and down these lineups. I mean, when you have Ohtani on the Dodgers, Juan Soto on the Mets, Cal Raleigh on the Mariners, Ronald Acuna on the Braves, Aaron Judge on the Yankees, and now Alex Bregman on the Cubs. These lineups are definitely built around those guys, and when you have those guys in the middle, that definitely helps, and they've definitely formed really great, impactful lineups around them. So that's my top 6. I was going to do some fantasy picks, but at this point, if you haven't, I was going to do this if I got to it before the season started, but let's look at some futures picks. I was looking at some of them. Obviously, what's crazy is the Dodgers are plus 210 to win the World Series. The next closest team is like plus 1,000. So you're not getting much value. It's a pretty good shot that you're going to see the Dodgers in the World Series, but I think some pretty good value picks would be teams like the Cubs, like the Orioles. I could see them with the upgraded rosters and not priced like favorites yet. That we could see some pretty, you can see some good return on those if those hit. A sleeper pick would be the Tigers, just making a full run to the World Series because the back-to-back Cy Young winner might be gone after the season, so they might throw all their chips into the deck for this season. Definitely come the trade deadline. One team I would fade, the Mets. There's a lot of excitement. It is a pretty much a reworked roster, but I just think the money that the Mets spend is never good money, and they never build the right roster with the money they spend. So that's kind of my quick thoughts on the futures picks. But what do you think, Logan?
Before that, so yeah, you mentioned the 3 teams on the rise, bounce back. Can you think? I think you said the Mets, but can you think of any 1 or 2 other teams that will decline from last year's success or mediocrity, but then they're going to absolutely suck?
I mean, I would say Toronto, but then I think maybe Seattle. I think
That's what
Seattle.
I was gonna say the team in the Pacific Northwest that was the prime candidate.
Seattle making it as far as they did in the playoffs with the roster they had. That was kind of like a dream run for a team that doesn't make it that far usually. I just don't know that they can, get that far again with this roster. Like I said, it was a dream run. I just don't see it happening again for them. If they were going to do it all and win the whole damn thing, they would have done it last year.
Yep. Wait, have you given your World Series preseason pick yet?
I got cute last year and I went with the Braves, so I'm just going to say I could see the Dodgers three-peating, be the first team since the Yankees of the late 90s and 2000 to go 3 straight. So I'm not going to get cute this year. I'm going with the Dodgers.
So I was just right before I was deciding who I want to go with, and yeah, I'm taking the Dodgers to win the World Series. But I'm like I mentioned earlier, the AL. I don't have lean one way or the other. I feel like it could go a number of ways, so I'm going to go chaos here, and I will take the Tigers to come out of the AL. That's going to be my bold pick. It's going to be Detroit and Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series, and the Dodgers, of course, win. Yeah, but yeah, I see the AL. I see some chaos in the AL this year.
Nice. Logan, do you have a final word?
Yes. So thought we might talk about it at the beginning, but there's just so much other college basketball news just from the tournament just kind of got lost on the shuffle. But North Carolina is looking for a new coach. Hubert Davis is gone, and I don't know, Cage. Where would you rank that? Where would you rank that job?
Man, that is a top 2 job in college basketball. Duke and North Carolina has to be. I
I
would say it's
agree.
even better than Kentucky.
I agree, and I think pre-NIL, they could poach just about anybody from their job
The
into
Dusty
that.
May narrative is crazy right now.
Now though, I mean they're still going to get a really good candidate, but some of the names they're throwing out there, like Tommy Lloyd from Arizona, and like, no, I don't know, not anymore. Like 5 years ago, before NIL and paying players, and you relied on, because by then coaching was who the best brand, and literally Duke, North Carolina had the best brands. But yeah, I mean, but it's still a top 5 job. You said top 2. Argument for that, for sure, top 5, and it's going to be interesting. I saw a story they're going to wait till after the season's over to announce who it is, but they could go a number of different ways, and it could create a big carousel, because if they do poach someone good, I mean, in that position, whatever team they poach from is going to be open. That could create a domino effect as well. So
the one thing I hope they do is not just hire from within, like the North Carolina family. I don't think that. I think they need to move on from that. I think the Steelers need to move on from that. I think a lot of different organizations need to move on from the family oriented hiring of coaching. So yeah, this is a story that we're going to be following pretty closely, and we'll be ready when that story breaks, because that's a huge job. That's one that, like you said, a lot of coaches would be dying for a few years ago, but maybe not now. So, but the ACC pretty wide open still, even though Duke's usually on top, but like you can find a lot of success in that
second
conference.
place can get second place, consistent second, third place can still get you a lot of success. So yeah.
Yep. All right, great show. That's it. This has been the KNL Sports Huddle for Logan Hubert. I'm Cage Kiplinger. May your bets hit, your team not choke, and your stress levels stay manageable. We'll huddle up again next week on Tuesday.